Thank you so much, Maureen. Sure appreciate you taking the time to give us the 911 or the 411, excuse me, the 411 on today's efforts. And we want to make this easy and enjoyable for everybody. But I think also information jam-packed. So we will have a few handouts at the close of things if you're interested in them. So please, as Maureen suggested, engage as best you can and get those questions generated. This is one of my most really enjoyable and I think one of the most valuable presentations we do, because I do believe that life is just, it's just a series of planning. And, it goes much better without surprises and concerns and crises, etc. I can't really control the surprises and the concerns and the crises, but I can certainly help you plan for all of the above. And just make sure that you have your ducks in a row so that you make the best educated decision possible when you're facing some of these worries and concerns. We plan for babies, we plan for educations and childhoods and marriages, and why shouldn't we but plan for the aging process as well? So I think it just is a wonderful, voluminous presentation that I hope I can deliver and make resonate for you in a couple of different ways. And maybe some of you know all of this, but it'll be a refresher course for you in that regard, but hopefully not. I think we've got some really good nuggets here that we want to share with you so that you do the best job you can do aging. It's tough enough to age. I'm aging myself, all of us are. It's just some of us a little faster than others, or some of us have a head start on this process by nature of their chronological age. So that being said, we'll dive into what we want to talk about. We're going to talk about legal documents. I'm not an attorney, but I know enough to know when to be dangerous and when to alert you to the resources in regards to legal documentations that are necessary to make sure that your ducks are in a row. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about the financial worries of the aging process and kind of dispel some myths and some concerns and issues that maybe I have a better feel and a better explanation to, so that you best understand what you're up against financially to a certain degree. We'll talk about the value of everybody keeping their health and in its best check capacity. I just last week spent a significant amount of time with a delightful couple, and the husband is the lead caregiver in this scenario. I think they've kind of switched roles. I think she was the lead in the relationship. He went to work, she raised the children, and now their roles have reversed. And it was just really illuminating to him to realize that his health needs are equal to her needs, and that we cannot put him on the back burner and not and ignore what he's going through as well. We'll talk a little bit about, again, what is covered in all the programs that are out there and available, from the standardized programs to some of the specialized programs. We want to encourage you to create a toolbox and get this information gathered. I am delighted if you take your toolbox and you collect it and you tuck it away, and you don't have to come back to it until things change, status changes, crisis develops, etc. I take no offense to that whatsoever. I actually invite that. So tuck it away and call me back. I just picked up a voicemail message before we started today, and a delightful gal said, "Gail, we spoke about a year ago and you advised and guided me, and now we're there. So thank you so much. I've tucked away your number and I've got it, and we need to move forward on things now." So no harm, no foul in any of that. We're going to briefly touch on the COVID-19 impact. Certainly we have hopes that that is going to further and further diminish, but as you all are aware, we have just these little peaks and valleys of this COVID issue still looming large in life. And I want to give you a good sense of how this affects the aging population and what are some of the concerns and hoops that you'll have to jump through should you decide to make some changes and utilize some services out there. And then we always like to touch on the end of life conversations. I'm huge a huge proponent of talking about the end of life. And I'm not morbidly focused. I am simply informationally focused. Why would we not but want to know what the personal choices of our loved ones are so that we can uh, follow those choices and those wishes? I happen to believe that sharing that information is a gift that you can give those responsible for you in the latter part of your life or at any part of your life as it might be. So really important to make sure that we're having those conversations as well. Those two, we have those conversations, we make wishes and wants known, we tuck that material away, and we refer to it when we have to and when the crisis or the change of status has hit. So this is our goal and objective for the next hour. And so we'll get on to that and try to share with you the little nuggets that we're aware of that we want you to be aware of as well. We start here indulging me more than anybody. This is one of my favorite quotes by good old Teddy Roosevelt. Old age is like everything else. To make us a success of it, you've got to start young. And, you know, we actually are aging from the minute we're born. So why not plan a bit for that time in life when we really might need additional services? And I have to say, I've always admired the stamina and the strength of individuals. I love going out and meeting 85 and 90-year-olds who say to me, how come I'm tired? How come my heart isn't pumping as hard as it used to pump? And my only answer or response to that is, you know, you were issued that heart maybe 90 years ago, and it has been working hard for a long, long time. So, you know, I think again, to come into this aging twist and turn in our life and not be prepared and planned and communicative of what your wishes and wants are really is more of a reflection on ourselves rather than it is on the system. Let's get the word out, and then let's put it away, and let's have a good time together enjoying one another. It doesn't have to be the 24/7 focus, but we need to realize that planning is a big part of going forward. So again, going back to that idea of plan, I think this slide makes a really good point. We cannot control our aging process. Not a one of us knows what we're going to be dealt. Some of our issues are genetic, some of our issues are environmental, and some of our issues are happenstance. But what we can do is we can make plans for any and all of these contingencies. I wish I could tell you that I have this, you know, this glass ball and I can sit down and you know, project what your future looks like. I'm not that good. I'm good, but I'm not that good. So what I can suggest, however, is should this happen, do you have this plan? Should this happen, do you have that plan? We can talk about those contingencies and then making appropriate plans for those contingencies. And then the second statement on this screen or this slide tells us that this is so very true that most of the clients that I work with, not all, but many of those clients come to us right dab smack in the middle of a crisis. And we do not make our best decisions when we are emotionally pitched, when we're exhausted emotionally, tired from the trauma of a crisis. Having the plan already essentially created and just sitting in the ready for some fine tuning is really going to quell that crisis ever so slightly and make it a little bit easier to manage in the midst of our crisis. So that's the message we try to preach to our incoming and inquiries. And even when we start to work with our clients, this is our first attempt. This is our first part of our care plan is what's in place. What's the plan? What's the wish? What's the desire? And can we meet that wish and that desire for that loved one? So again, planning always to your benefit. So in regards to legal matters, we really encourage you to get your legal documents in order. Do you have the designated powers of attorney, both for the durable, for finances, and the POA for healthcare? This is an important understanding and mechanism to put into place. And it's best if you have a general oversight or overview of these assignments and have players in place. And we should have current active players in place, Can't tell you the number of times that I get out to a home or a client and we pull out the power of attorney, and lo and behold, the power of attorney for finances has been gone for 12 years and the power of attorney for healthcare moved to Arizona. That does not legal documents in order make. And so really critical to make sure that your legal documents, your designations are in place. An advanced healthcare directive, a very important document. Again, it's a legal document, it's a planning document. It talks, it's typically 6 to 7 pages in length, and it talks about your wishes, your desires, your planning, who you want ultimately to be in place as you go through this aging experience. Really critical document, and it needs to be accurate and updated as best it can be. The other document that you'll see us talk and refer to in this presentation would be the POLST, or the Physician's Orders for Life-Sustaining Treatment. And this goes very much hand in hand with the Advanced Healthcare Directive. However, the differential between the Advanced Healthcare Directive and the POLST is that the Advanced Healthcare Directive, again, is more of a planning document, whereas the POLST document is an action document. This is the document in a crisis that the emergency personnel responders, the ambulance drivers, the paramedics, and the emergency room staff will want to see when they are jumping in to assist in the midst of a crisis. There is not an emergency response personnel who is going to spend any amount of time, any concerted amount of time, browsing through an advanced healthcare directive, trying to locate on page 3, 4, or 5 what your ultimate wishes are. What they are going to want to do is get to that physician's order in regards to your decision making for your needs, which is a it's a one-page document, both sided, and we'll have an example on our next slide of what that POLST looks like. So again, the power of attorney is critical. The Advanced Healthcare Directive, again, a further planning, legal planning tool. And then that POLST, or Physician's Orders for Life-Sustaining Treatment, is then the action document that complements your Advanced Healthcare Directive. And then ultimately, the other major criteria that we would suggest that you have up to date and created is a trust and a legal opinion on whether you need a trust or not and how that will work for you. And then subsequently, what should be included in that trust would be a very wise legal matter to get in place. An attorney can review your current trust and update that trust or rewrite that trust, but the trust is something, again, in that legal capacity that you should get some guidance from a specialist on, an attorney who does deal with matters of aging, as it might be. So here you can see the example of the POLST. It is typically it's a bright pink one page, but dual-sided document. And it is completed with the physician, signed by the physician, and signed by the individual who is having the conversation with the physician or their representative. So a power of attorney could also sign a POLST document. I'll be honest, folks, I have a POLST. I have a disabled daughter who's 37 years old. She has a POLST. Probably more often or more likely would be that she would need an emergency response personnel to come to her home. And her POLST is front and center at her home, so that should they come in and she is not able to speak for herself, this document is located in a neutral position in the home. Typically, it's on the refrigerator in the kitchen. That's where the emergency personnel go to. Half of them go to the person who needs help. The other half go to the refrigerator to look for the POLST. And all of the directions in regards to life-sustaining treatment are an option on this form. And as long as it's here and it's signed and dated by both the recipient and the doctor, it's the document that emergency response team is going to run with. I can't tell you the number of times that we have gone to the emergency room and met a client there. The POLST was nowhere to be found, but a copy of it was on my phone, and I was able, in a HIPAA protected application, I am then able to forward it immediately to the personnel in the emergency room, and immediate urgent decisions are made based off that physician's order. So the post is a critical document, and it's good for healthy and unhealthy alike. So, and it again, it can be the voice for you when your voice is not able to be engaged in any decision making in an emergency situation. The other thing we strongly suggest, and this comes from a toolkit that we actually created, is a current list of your medications. Who dispenses, who are your docs, what's the medication, when was the last time you took it, those kinds of things. This again can be critical. I know when we have emergency visits to the ER with my daughter, it is one of the first questions. What have you taken today? Have you missed any of your normal medication passes? What are you deficient in? What is going on? My daughter's on a boatload of medications, and they don't all come to mind at the moment. So a very concise list of current medications, and that's the key, current medications, because it takes a little energy to stay in tune with all those medication changes, particularly for our seniors, because their med lists do change on a regular basis based on a change of status for them as well. So something along these lines. And of course, you also want the other valuable documents, such as your identification, Medicare card, supplement card, things like that. But the post and the medication list are really the valuable items to get in a toolkit and keep copies of. I suggest, if you're the medical power of attorney for anyone, that you would have a copy of the post for the person you're responsible for on your phone, so that you too could share with anyone. Should someone reach out to you and want some direction on choices, as it might be. It's a great document created a bit more than a decade ago, and it really is, at least in California here, it really is the document of choice, particularly in the midst of crisis or emergency concern. You want to make sure that you've got some finances in order, because none of this comes cheap and none of this comes free. So we want to make sure that we advise you to take a peek at finances and work with one another on understanding finances. If you have a trusted financial advisor, it's a great way to start. Make sure they're well educated and much in tune with the aging services and guidelines, et cetera, that are out there. That will be very critical and important. It's also really, really important that you talk about your situation and your wishes, as it might be, with that financial or durable power of attorney. There's nothing worse than recognizing that you've been appointed this responsibility, and yet you have no in-depth knowledge of even where they bank, what their assets might be, how do they pay for things, because you may be asked to step in and take over those responsibilities in the interim as someone is out of feasibility of managing their own affairs. Very, very critical to understand what things cost and who pays for what. So this goes back to discussing situations and informing loved ones of what your wishes might be. I know these discussions regarding finances can be very difficult, and particularly difficult when it's adult, child, and parent. That's really where we see some of the role reversal. We haven't often queried our parents in regards to what their financial circumstances are. And it just feels awkward to reach in and say, so Dad, where is everything? And what do I do if? You may want to approach loved ones by saying, I know you've likely got your ducks in a row in regards to the finances. Can you tell me how you did that and how you went about it? Because I need to learn from you, and I need to do a good job as I serve you. A gentle opening of the door, focusing on yourself and your needs might make that conversation a little bit easier. How can you commit to supporting them if you don't have a sense of what their financial status might be? I think one of the things that we really have to be careful about is making promises to individuals when we don't have all the data that we need to make those commitments to those individuals. And that's never more apparent when it becomes a financial consideration. So I implore you to have a good understanding. Just by nature of the fact that you know where their things are doesn't mean that you're a decision maker at that moment, nor that you have access to their finances. You simply want to know what to do should this situation arise that you have to step in and be their financial oversight. I think it's really important. We won't spend a huge amount of time on this, but I think by just, visually taking a peek at it, you can see some pretty large numbers there and some pretty intimidating bits of information. But this is a very, I think, a very helpful screen, a very honest screen, in that it does give you kind of a general overview of some of the costs in the different areas in which we have coverage and support for our seniors, as it might be. So you can see there's a couple of different categories or service elements here, from nursing home, assisted living, in-home care, and adult day programming. And then adjacent to those categories would be the general costs of what these services might run an individual. And we'll pick on, as an example, in-home care. You can see that just simply 4 hours a day, 7 days a week, at $30 an hour in 1 month, you would spend $3,750. That's only 4 hours a day of the 24 hours of day in a day that there is for some assistance and coverage. And we've now already spent just short of $3,800 for those 4 hours of respite in the day where we might have some help coming into the home. You can see all the way up to the nursing home charges, where $13,000, $14,000, $15,000 a month to be in a nursing home, getting the medical support that you might need if you were to be a long-term client in that facility, in that capacity of a facility. So again, I think just getting a really clear picture of what things cost at this stage and what you're facing is really an important element of what you need to do to educate yourself in regards to making decisions. If someone is to say to you, I never want to leave the home, I always want to stay home, let me tell you that that's actually the most expensive route to go of all of them. If you have an individual who needs 24/7 round-the-clock care at home, cannot be at home alone, doesn't mean that there's someone hovering, taking their blood pressure or monitoring their IV or monitoring their respirator. This means just being at home, managing day in and day out, having their meals made, etc., having their medications reminded to be taken, etc. You're probably 24/7 looking at about a price tag of about $20,000 to $22,000 a month. That is a hefty price tag that very few individuals are able to stomach very long. So making a commitment such as, Mom, I promise I'll never put you in a home, could be dangerous if you don't really understand the financial ramifications of that statement and the emotional ramifications of, can we really leave that individual at home? Are they best served at home? So again, good overview of what all of these costs might be about and how do you go about tackling them. It's really a mathematical equation. I have this many assets in this fashion, liquid, non-liquid. The costs are this much. I do some division and I figure out how long I can last and in what capacity. So we can boil it down to a pretty simple process, but we've got to have the data points to put in to make that calculation. That's a really important element of the transaction of evaluating some facts and figures, as it might be. We talked a little bit at the onset about that health check, and I'm going to be a bit of a nag and a second mother to everyone that I speak with, and remind them that everybody deserves the best and the most efficient and most attentive health check that they can afford and manage. It's critical to everybody's success. So we're going to really encourage everyone to be included in the equation of looking for the best options and taking care of themselves. Really important to establish a good working relationship with your healthcare provider. Really important that you have a PCP or a specialist that you feel you can talk to, that hears you, that engages with you. I know our world of healthcare right now is really challenged. I had an appointment with a client last week, and it was just a telephone conference with the doctor, and the doctor started the conversation with, I just want to let you know that I am allotted 15 minutes. 15 minutes is what we have. So I'm going to give you 3 questions that you can ask of me, and that is all I can cover today. And I was just demoralized and frustrated. And Matt, we had our questions lined up. We had our talking points. That's my job. Imagine somebody who doesn't realize that they've got 15 minutes and they are not organized, and they cannot get their thoughts across, and they cannot get them in an orderly fashion. It's so important that we have a good working relationship with our healthcare provider. So I encourage you, if you don't care for your primary care physician or your specialist, look around, shop around, make sure you find someone who you feel at least is able to listen to you and respond accordingly. Attend those regular health checkups and those procedures. So often, as the primary player in a caregiving relationship, we tend to put ourselves on the back burner. And I'm going to pick on myself as a perfect example. As I mentioned, I have a disabled daughter who lives with me. I tend to put her on that front burner from time to time because her needs are more emergent than mine are. But I am critical as to her well-being equally. And so if I am not in good stead and good health and good sleep and good nutrition, I'm not going to be much of a value to the ones that I'm trying to help and protect and serve. It's that simple visual that we always have gotten when we get on airplanes. You put your mask on first, and then you attend to those that you're responsible for. I have to get myself started before I can make sure that she's in good shape. So attend those checkups. I know it's hard, but you've got to attend to those checkups. It's important. We are really big proponents of bringing an advocate to appointments. We do this day in and day out. This appointment does not become about us. It becomes about how to communicate best, how to get the message across, and then the detail of the response that we get from a physician or a medical delivery system that tells us what's going on. It may be new information to us. It may be unsettling. It may be over our head. So having a second set of ears really may help to discern after the fact, what did they say? Or during the conversation to ask that question or ask the doctor to restate what was just said so it's clear to everybody. We really strongly believe that, particularly as we age, bringing an advocate to those appointments is a really beneficial step to make. Keep that medication list updated, as we spoke about in the last couple of minutes. Medications change, get them off the med list, get the correct med list or medication on that list, and keep it as updated as possible. It needs to reflect accurately. We can't do a whole lot of damage to individuals with our caregiving, but we can do damage with medication. So let's make sure that that medication is coming to the loved one at the appropriate time, in the appropriate dosing, and that it's being used to its maximum. So the medication list and its updating is really critical. Take care of your teeth. What's happening in your mouth can happen all over the body. So, a mild infection in the mouth can be a broad infection in the body. So the teeth are very important in this maintenance of one another. Be mindful of your eye health. Very important to keep the eyes in good working order. And if not, there are excellent resources out there, ophthalmologists, optometrists who can work with the health eye, making sure that we keep that eye as healthy as possible all the way through our journeys. Check your hearing. Make sure that there's nothing worse than being halfway engaged because not because you're cognitively challenged, but because you really just aren't hearing what's going on. I was very excited to learn the other day that there is some discussion, some legislation. I'm fairly certain we won't see it this year, but there would be some mandates toward making sure that our hearing aid world is more affordable and more reasonable to everyone, that hearing being one of those health matters that really deserves some attention and maybe some supplementing financially from the powers that might be. But nothing worse than losing hearing and not being a part of the conversation in every matter of life. And it cannot be said enough that the health of your brain is so important. Making sure that you are doing things that feed your brain and that feed it in a good fashion, making sure that we have diagnoses and we have the support of understanding the role the brain takes in our aging process. I think it's very surprising to a lot of individuals, um, just as a sidebar, that long-term depression can lend itself to dementia, and doesn't always, but it can. And long-term depression being something that we could have treated in the course of a lifetime. And sometimes if it goes untreated for years and years and years, we can't backtrack and we can't get that brain in the order, functioning in the order that we want to. So brain health is a big, important part of the overall health check that we implore you to take advantage of and make sure that not only your loved one is managing, but that you're managing as well. When we talk about not neglecting your brain health, that includes keeping the mind and the body active. Right now, you're keeping the mind very active. You're participating in something that's really broadening your skill set. This may be new information to you. So your mind is working and engaging. You're probably working through the technology of formats like this. Hopefully we've gotten this under our belt, but I know a year ago at this time, I was highly anxious on the Zoom calls. I was quite, boy, what if it goes wrong? What if I lose power? What if? Nowadays, I've kept the mind engaged and I feel much more calm in regards to my ability to handle this. I've kept my brain health going. I've kept my mind working. I learned something new. I can handle the Zoom conversations and the Zoom efforts at this point. I feel very accomplished. Keeping your body active is important. If this is a silly and simple adage, but if you don't use it, you lose it. And that's simple, and that phrase has been around forever and a day, but mind and body both need to be happy and active to keep that brain moving in a positive direction. Don't ignore changes, investigate any clear changes that you see. There are some amazing professionals who can really help you cut to the chase in regards to concerns regarding the brain health. If we have a broken arm, we go fix it. If we have a broken brain, we should feel comfortable going to fix it. So let's get those professionals engaged when necessary. And I think our mental health, particularly of late, in this past year and a half, has really been challenged. And it's not just our seniors, it's not just the ones we're doing caregiving for, it's everybody. We have all been through a fairly deep isolation and potential depression as a result of COVID. And this new life that we have that we're facing as we adjust and adapt. We're coming out of that fog, but are we fully out of that depression, etc.? So again, one in five people in the American population suffer from some sort of mental health issue. We need to address those and ask for help and formulate any and all support systems that we can formulate. There is no shame in saying, I need help. No shame in that. I actually firmly believe that shows strength, not weakness, to identify and know that I need an assist from time to time, be it my physical body, be it my emotional or my mental capacity. I might need an assist from time to time. If mental health diseases go undiagnosed, they potentially can become much more complicated as we age. So let's address things straight on as they present to us, as it might be. Here we want to talk a little bit about some fact and fiction, dispel some myths in regards to what's covered and what's not covered when it comes to the aging process. So as we look at Medicare, we realize that the Medicare benefits they will provide for your hospitalization, your doctoring, your drug policies, your supplements, but this is not a housing nor an in-home care companion type benefit. So, and I even to this day, and I've been in the industry 25 plus years, I still occasionally get an individual who will say to me, but Medicare will cover my mom moving into assisted living, won't they? Absolutely not. So understand your Medicare benefits. what they cover and what they don't cover. And we can assist you with direction on that should you have any questions down the road. Medi-Cal benefits. Medi-Cal is a payer system here in the state of California that is geared at our lower income individuals. It is a mirror image of the federal program, which is called Medicaid. But here in California, we had to be a little different and a little special. And Medi-Cal is a very valuable entity to investigate, but it doesn't cover everything either, nor is it ideal for everybody, nor does everybody qualify for it. So again, an in-depth understanding of what Medi-Cal would pay for and what it wouldn't pay for is a beneficial investigation for you to make. In-home care, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, I think everybody wants to stay at home for as long as they can, but is your home the best and most cost-effective place for you to be? A realistic understanding of what the cost per hour might be to bring someone into the home is a valuable investigation because it will let you make better decisions down the road. Many times we have families that come to us and say, oh, we want mom to stay at home. We're going to use all our money up so that she can stay at home. Well, my guidance and advice would be, let's look at the big picture. Let's look at the whole story. Do you really want to run out of money in 2 years when your mom is in her early 70s and just has some cognitive impairment, but is physically pretty healthy? Is that the best use of the funds as it might be? So it's always good to know a good realistic picture of what those costs might be. We have independent and assisted living as options for housing as it might be. They run the gamut from low income to the very high end buy-in opportunities. Again, a good 101 course on independent and assisted living, who pays for what, how much it costs, what's the difference between independent and assisted, and then dovetailing into memory care. When will I need that? Why is memory care so different? What does that really mean? All of these need to be defined and clear in your mind as you go forward and try to make those plans. We also then have a skilled nursing or rehabilitative component of our medical delivery system. And quickly, in a nutshell, our medical system, you go into the hospital and you are evaluated. You are, as I like to say, or I've heard said, I don't like saying this, but what I've heard said many times is we treat them and we street them in the hospitals at this point. Treat them and street them. The hospitals these days are acute care environments. We solve the emergent problem and then we either dismiss them to home or we send them to skilled nursing for a rehabilitative stay. Rehabilitation is not, it is a short-term stay. It is where it is not occurring in the hospitals very frequently. Really, the focus is to solve the emergent problem and send them to a skilled nursing facility with a rehabilitative component, get them to skilled, get them through the steps of rehabilitation, and then get them home as well. So understanding really the pathing of all of these benefits, where they lie, what might be covered, what might not be covered, is going to be an invaluable investigation that you do to better educate, complete your toolkit so that mom's at home, or mom lives in an independent setting. She fell, she broke a hip. We're going to go to the hospital. We're going to go and get through the emergent care for the hip. They're never going to ask much about the other extraneous challenges that she's going through. They're then going to send her to skilled nursing. Oh, I'll relax for a good long time, 100 days, because that's what they told you. That's not really what they told you. So again, they are getting people through all of these systems quickly. Insurance drives most of this. It's standing behind, telling docs, telling facilities what to do. So it's critical that you have a good understanding of what all these facts and fiction realities might be. And we're very happy at any time to go into greater detail of any and all of these categories. I think that's one of our areas where we're most expertise. There are some resources that are out there, and so we want to make sure that you have every awareness of what those resources might be and how real they very well may be. Some individuals may qualify for the Veterans Aid and Attendance Program. This is a program geared at veterans. Thank you all of you veterans who have served us. And it is geared for individuals with activities of daily living needed assistance. And then also it has some income thresholds that are attached to the aid and attendance program. I am not a Veterans Aid and Attendance Specialist, but I do know enough to be dangerous. And what is dangerous is that I might know, it will not help you. So I will get you to someone who is very expertise in the Veterans Aid and Attendance Program at any turn. So you can see if you might have a loved one who would qualify for this program. It's a wonderful program, actually created in 1957, and it does serve many individuals, and can help them stay either at home for a short period of time or support them in an assisted living environment. As we mentioned, Medi-Cal is that payer source that we mirrored after the Medicaid program, the federal Medicaid program. Medi-Cal in our state is applicable for a housing component, primarily in a skilled nursing facility as a custodial long-term client, or in our assisted living waiver program, which is a program that is statewide but has very strict guidelines and availability throughout the state of California. Again, couldn't tell you that I'm a specialist or expert in any of these, but I sure know how to get you to the specialists and to the experts. We also have in-home supportive services, IHSS. This again, predicated on a need in the activities of daily living area, and then also combined with fiscal issues, those who have fewer resources, financial resources, and have higher ADL needs, but could potentially stay at home, may get some assistance with some dollars to spend toward caregiving support as it might be. All of these you have to qualify for. They have income thresholds and activities of daily living issues that have to be declared, identified, and approved. There also is that lovely idea, anyway, of long-term care insurance. Now, this is a private pay entity. You privately pay into long-term care insurance, and then hopefully when needed, you're able to tap into the resources that the long-term care may provide for you. Again, not a specialist in this capacity, but certainly know enough to get you in the direction of getting a better understanding of long-term care. I would, interestingly, we have a number of clients who have CalPERS long-term care coverage. And boy, I just worry quite a bit about what the future is going to look like. Currently, CalPERS is not writing or opening any new claims. You may not you may not apply for CalPERS long-term care insurance. They're not writing policies right now. They're in a frozen capacity, but those individuals who are wise enough to actualize it and to utilize, to actualize it with their monthly premiums when they were actively working for the state of California are now able to potentially take advantage of their long-term care insurance as it might be. This too is driven by activities of daily living and need for that coverage to be enacted, and may save your bacon, quite heavily if you haven't been able to save in a large capacity. So we encourage that the utilization of anyone who has a long-term care policy to get that activated when appropriate. Again, I can head you in the direction of getting answers to long-term care because I'm just not an expert in those areas, but we certainly know they exist. The realities, here's the harsh news. This won't warm anybody's heart, but it is the honest truth. The bulk of the services that might be needed when one is a senior truly are going to come out of their pocketbook to a great extent. Certainly their Medicare coverage will cover, as I mentioned, the hospitalizations and the doctoring and some of the medications. But if you are bringing someone into your home to help you, or if you are moving into a facility, the bulk of what we see is this is private pay. So it's based on the assets that you've been able to attain, the savings that you've been able to attain, the retirement policies, the pensions, and the income that you have on a regular basis. That's what supports you primarily in the arena of retirement living, as it might be. And it's truly pursuant to the arena of assisted living, and even potentially skilled nursing facilities. So, here we have some harsh realities, but these are, again, just invaluable to know as you try to plan and go forward and make sure that you have the resources to actualize the wishes of the loved one that you're advocating for. And if you don't, then it's time to have the real conversations about what the next steps might be and what your choices might be. So we encourage you to create this toolkit or gather this information well before you need them. Tuck it away so that you know that you can get back to it when the time comes. And all it will need at that time is a little bit of nice fine tuning and updating, as it might be. We are such huge proponents of this approach, and we're always willing to work with the family in lining up and getting those plans in place and gathering those resources so that you're able to refer back to them. It's always wise to assess the home environment for safety. We come out to many clients' homes and do a safety evaluation right from the get-go and try to talk to families about adaptations to the home and how far do you go and what will serve and what's realistic. Will you get the return on your investment? Is it time to maybe look at, you've put every safety element that you can possibly put in place at home and it's still not safe? Is it time to have the conversation about moving? But getting that home evaluated for safety and future steps is a really invaluable visit that I think everybody would benefit from at least once. You're getting a good understanding right now of the costs of the aging process, particularly when it comes to assisted living, skilled nursing, in-home care, etc. But again, I would fully encourage you to educate and get a good understanding of what you're up against as this aging process goes forward. Research those in-home care providers. Take a quick minute to just talk about concerns that we have about in-home care providers. It's really important that you, if you're going to use an agency, that you vet those agencies and you work with them and talk with them and have a good line of communication. Many of individuals may want to try to do their own hiring and bring in their own caregivers. There is no right or wrong answer here. I just think it is very wise that you be educated on what your choices might be. Be reminded that if you decide to hire on your own and bring in a friend of a friend, you are now an employer and you should be paying payroll taxes and workers' compensation, and you will have to have time off for those individuals, etc. So just make sure that whatever route you take, you are well educated on what the in-home providers or agencies might provide and what it is that if you utilize your own services, your own efforts, what your responsibilities might be. I will often say to families, you are welcome to look for caregivers on your own, but you're now an employer. And that takes on a whole nother responsibility in a job that you might have. So I think you have to do that wisely and be well informed on your choice. Highly encourage you to tour communities and facilities today so that you know what will feel right and what might look best for your loved one when and if the time comes. Just because you toured it doesn't mean it's going to be something in your future. It just educates you to the possibilities and the options that are out there. I like to say there's a lid for every pot out there. So there's somewhere that's going to resonate pretty much for everybody. But you got to do your homework and you've got to tour and you've got to compare. Turn to the experts, much like you are today. Well done, you. There's the Alzheimer's Association, the Parkinson's Association, Del Oro Caregiver Resource Center. There are senior legal services. The Area on Aging, we're Area 4 on Aging. I really encourage you to reach out to these organizations and get some very neutral, very responsible information from them as well. You may be considering senior centers and adult day programs. We're still in a little bit of a holding pattern in regards to these all opening up broadly, but these may be alternative options for respite for someone in need of supervision, and then also the individual who is the caregiver may get a break by utilizing one of these programs, and we're happy to get some information in more detail out to you in regards to senior centers and adult day programs and how they work, but they're a viable option, definitely. Very quickly, again, as we know, COVID-19 has come and gone, but yet it kind of peaks and valleys right now. We've got this concern about the Delta variant, et cetera. I think the important thing here to note is that the crisis has hit. We have to realize that we have to have some discussions and thoughts and wishes known, efforts made to line up our plans, get a professional or a personal advocate to support you, get your documentations or your documents, excuse me, reviewed and in good standing order, and make your plans A, B, and C. We're a huge proponent of not just one plan, because we never know what exactly will hit. What will we do if the following scenarios occur? So make sure that you just don't dismiss these, COVID-19 as the big picture. It is the big crisis. And now we add a broken hip and a poor medical delivery system and few caregivers available to the crisis. And now we've got a huge mess. So do your homework, get yourself in line and figure out what the plan might be. And again, plan A, B, or C, what those all look like, and take it from there. As we mentioned, we're really huge proponents for talking to loved ones and talking about end of life, asking, what are your wishes? What do you want? What kind of treatment do you want? What kind of intervention do you want? What are your wishes? How much medical intervention do you want? Who will be your voice? Who will speak for you if you cannot speak for yourself? Get a good understanding of palliative care versus hospice care and what's available out there in the world, and what you might need on both care levels and what really will serve. What are those final wishes? Again, we can talk about it, we can make it clear to everybody, and then we can take those documents and tuck them away and then come back to them when we need to. I firmly believe this is the gift you give the loved ones who will live beyond and be that decision maker and that actualizer for you when you are gone. There are lots of resources available, and there's some. The three that we mentioned here are my three favorites, but there's one called the Conversation Project. It just gives you talking points on how to go about having this conversation. There's a very well documented and platform called 5 Wishes that will again help you open the door to these conversations, and a very lovely program in Be Remembered that will help you again to open the door to talk about what you want as your legacy. Some of us want to go out in a big way, others just want to go out quietly and adored by our loved ones and not a lot of fuss made. So again, it's just best to know what it is that you're going to be advocating for with your loved one, or with the responsibilities, excuse me, that you've been asked to take on. I have all of my wishes and all of my wants written down for my family. I don't think I'm on the precipice of leaving in them at this moment, but I could go out this door and I could get hit by a bus tomorrow. And the one thing my family will not have to do is wonder what I wanted as a closure for my life. Instead, I hope they'll dance. I hope they'll sing. I hope they'll remember me well, and I hope they won't be stressed at this time. So I think it's an important thing that we can do for our loved ones. And again, this is all part of that planning process that we would really encourage you to do. I know that there are some great resources with which to get that out there and known as it might be. And this is one of my very favorite final thoughts to you, is that everything has a beginning. Everything, excuse me, that has a beginning has an ending. Make peace with that and all will be well. We are, not a one of us is getting off this planet alive. So we should have some plans on how we want that to go and what we want that to look like. So let's get that in order so that we can live the life that we want to live while we're here on this planet. We all come with an expiration date. We just don't know when it is. So it's best that we just plan and know this will occur, and we put our ducks in a row and we get our toolkit together. We communicate with the individuals that we've designated as our responsible entities, and we go on celebrating and enjoying those moments with our loved ones, knowing that all of this is tucked away quite nicely, and we're in good stead, and we're ready for the next twist or turn in that journey. That, for what it's worth, that will conclude today, and I will shut up for a while and give Maureen back the microphone so she can pursue any questions that might have come up, or just any discussion points. And I do want to thank you for the time today, and hopefully again, hope that you walk away with some good nuggets that really put you a little bit more in a driver's seat to get some of this planning accomplished so that you can go on and enjoy life.